Wonder Woman is a hero who knows when to knock down those who need it, and how to put even her friends in their place as is necessary. She represents the ideals of love, truth, and peace, and she really tries to live up to those ideals, even if it puts her at odds with her superhero colleagues and friends, or if it results in shame or embarrassment on their parts. Wonder Woman isn't afraid to embarrass you, if you deserve it, and in some cases, even if you maybe don't deserve it. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. This is Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight. Come talk nerdy with me over on Twitter at Vampex13, and for now, let's talk nerdy here about the top 10 times Wonder Woman embarrassed other superheroes. Let's get into it. Number 10. Rejected. Kind of. This one comes from JLA issue number 90 from the 1997 series. Here, Wonder Woman and Batman eventually share a kiss, which prompts Diana to look inside herself and see how she really feels about Bruce and the potential for a relationship with him. After looking deep within her subconscious by using the trans-consciousness articulator, try saying that 5 times fast, Diana decides it would be best if she and Bruce didn't actually end up together. She tells him as much, just as he seems to be ready to say the same. Although he also makes quite the face when she asks him if he felt being with her was worth risking all they already had as friends. And while Bruce seems to say that he agrees with Diana wholeheartedly, his face and the parentheses in his speech bubble seem to imply otherwise to me. All in all, I think both of these two ended up a little bit embarrassed by the whole ordeal, so it's a bit of a two-way street with this one. Batman's embarrassed, Diana's a little embarrassed. Number 9. Exposed a critical weakness. This one comes to us from one of the short stories included in the Wonder Woman 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular. The story is titled Dreamers, and it features a younger Diana who ends up, even as a kid, exposing a critical weakness in the Amazon's defenses for Doom's doorway. She ends up sneaking into the area with the help of Theo the shark, so great, hoping to get a better understanding of secrets and responsibilities she'll inherit when she becomes queen. By the way, in case you forgot, Diana can communicate with animals in marine life. She can talk to Theo. She's basically like a more bad Disney princess. Successfully sneaking into the area, Diana comes across Nubia, who is tasked with guarding the doorway, and reprimands Diana for sneaking in. Though she also seems a little bit impressed that Diana, being so young, was able to poke holes in the defenses of her much older and experienced sisters. Fortunately, Nubia's like, don't worry, I won't tell your mom, but I will have to tell her that hey, there's a hole here. We need to fix that. We need to tell these sharks to keep their mouths shut. Number 8. Defeat 'em to beat 'em. You know how we've mentioned the time that Batman incapacitated inadvertently the whole Justice League thanks to his contingency plans being stolen and then used by Ra's al Ghul? Well, he isn't the only one to defeat the Justice League. In fact, Wonder Woman defeated the Justice League without the interference or influence of anyone else. She did it single-handedly, and instead of it being a betrayal, it was actually to try and protect the League. However, the realization that Wonder Woman could take them all out so easily was likely pretty embarrassing when they came to afterwards. This all happened in League of One, where Diana defeated the League in order to protect them against a prophecy. You see, they had to go up against a dragon, but it was supposed to be the League's fate to both succeed in defeating the dragon, but also die in the process of winning that battle. To spare the rest of her friends and teammates, Diana beat them so that she could face the dragon alone and hopefully be the only one to both defeat it and possibly die in the process. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to show us some love in some other places here on the internet, head on over to our Facebook page, click that like, click that follow, and it really does help us out here at the channel, so thanks for doing that. Number 7. Cheaters never prosper. This was a whole thing where I feel like everyone was kind of embarrassed. Pretty much everyone involved I feel like was embarrassed in this one. I know I was embarrassed watching this happen. Oof. We are talking about when in the DCEU in Wonder Woman 1984, Diana competes in an Amazonian triathlon against the other Amazons, despite being very much their junior. The princess is hopeful that she can win the competition despite her lack of experience and her youth in comparison to her sisters. However, when she loses her horse, she has to get resourceful in order to catch back up and ends up taking a shortcut to do so. However, apparently it turns out that this is cheating, and so her perceived victory is considered null and void by her mother, the hero, Queen Hippolyta, who also seems pretty disappointed, but still hopeful when it comes to her daughter's attempt. She's like, look, you can't cheat, but maybe next time. Maybe you get him next time. Don't take shortcuts. I was embarrassed because I was like, really? That was cheating? Oh, okay. I would have done that too. I'm with you, Diana. Number 6. Beats down a god with his own weapon. This one comes from Wonder Woman issue 773 legacy numbering, where Wonder Woman takes on the god Thor. Not Marvel's Thor, who is very much a hero, but DC's Thor, who is still technically a hero, but also is kind of more of a brute than the Thor Odinson of Marvel's Earth 616. Wonder Woman ends up in DC's version of Asgard after the events of Dark Knight Death Metal. Here she learns that there seems to be a problem with souls going missing. She attempts to solve it, but ends up bonking heads with Thor, who isn't much for diplomacy. At least, not initially. Don't worry though, Diana puts him in his place, besting him in combat, taking Mjolnir, smashing him in the face with it before crushing it between her two hands. She's like, hammers, not really my thing. And of course, only then is Thor willing to listen to what she has to say. But don't worry, it all works out in the end. Everyone's able to sit at a table and have a discussion and a beer afterwards, so yay.
Number 5. The Justice League. In Justice League Doom, the animated movie, Batman is being scolded by the other members of the Justice League for having contingencies to immobilize each member of the League. They are deciding if they should make him leave the Justice League for this. Batman just kinda helps them decide. If you people can't see the potential danger of an out-of-control Justice League, I don't need to wait for a vote. I don't belong here. And he just walks out of there. Superman goes to him and asks what his contingency for Batman himself was, and he says, the Justice League. As someone on Reddit said, Batman is 100% right in this fight. Batman quit on his own terms, Batman built the Justice League's watchtower and has a deep understanding of how it works, and Batman left the watchtower to them, despite having designed, funded, and built it. Number 4. The Flash. The Justice League animated TV show in 2001. After the somewhat newly formed Justice League become fugitives, running and hiding from the Thanagarian troops, they take shelter in a department store. They come up with the solution of trading in their superhero costumes for regular street clothes to disguise themselves. This is when Flash pipes up, trying to voice his opinion about the whole secret identity thing. Batman cuts him off, walking right up to him, pointing at each member who has a secret identity, and straight up just saying their real names. Clark Kent, Wally West, Bruce Wayne. Yeah, shut up, Flash! Number 3. Aquaman. Okay, look, Aquaman does have some serious power, and in recent years, he's gotten a hell of a lot better. Partially thanks to Jason Momoa. But this story, well, it really doesn't make him look good. In Legends of the DC Universe number 27, the Joker goes to Atlantis and convinces everyone there, including Aquaman, that he is the king of the land. Aquaman even admits he's heard of Joker before from Batman, but that he just doesn't pay attention. Aquaman goes to the surface where he suddenly has trouble walking, can't figure out how to contact Batman, and he gets pepper sprayed. Then, Batman shows up and says no to helping Aquaman, so Aquaman attacks him. This gives us a full 3-page spread of Batman completely beating the gills off of Aquaman. Which is even more embarrassing when you realize Aquaman has actual powers. Number 2. Martian Manhunter. Okay, this is a short little moment, but it shows us a side to Bruce Wayne I don't think any of us knew existed. In JLA issue number 27 in 1999, there is a single page. Bruce Wayne is meeting with Clark Kent and a mystery woman who Clark introduces as Hino Ray, and she greets Bruce. In the very next panel, we find out that this woman is actually John Johns, the Martian Manhunter, in disguise. How? Well, Batman says that while the accent was flawless, the name was a dead giveaway. Now this may fly right over your head, it did for me at first, but Ray Hino is the name of Sailor Mars from Sailor Moon. That means that Batman, Bruce Wayne, billionaire and mass detective vigilante who has mortally wounded characters like Darkseid and beats criminals to a pulp with his bare hands, watches Sailor Moon. So does Martian Manhunter for that fact. Is it embarrassing? Up to you, but what? Number 1. Judge Dredd. In the Batman vs. Judge Dredd comic that ended up putting Batman in the world of 2000 AD's most famous character, Judge Dredd, Batman is arrested and taken to the Hall of Justice for being a vigilante and carrying around all the tech and weaponry that Batman does. Judge Dredd refuses to ally with Bruce to fight Judge Death, who is going to Gotham and will kill everyone there and on that Earth, saying that 1. He is going to put Bruce away for 20 years for his crimes, and 2. That Gotham is out of their jurisdiction. Bruce loses it and busts out of his bonds and starts to wail on the judge. Assaulting a judge? That's 10 years in prison. Make it 20, Bruce yells as he kicks Dredd in the face. Number 10. Lex Luthor. Imagine your long-distance son, who you were finally gaining ground with, is killed by a giant 7-foot clone of himself. And then his psycho grandpa steals his body and puts it in a sarcophagus alongside a chaos crystal, which leads to the villains from Apocalypse coming and fighting you for it. Now, imagine your friends show up and start intervening, unintentionally blocking you from stopping the villains from stealing your son's body. How absolutely fuming might you be? That's kinda hard to imagine, isn't it? Well, basically, after the Shazam and Justice League aligned Lex Luthor tried justifying this, Batman lets both of them know why they should keep their mouths shut and not insert themselves into conflicts they know nothing about. Batman gets 3 good punches across Shazam's face, leaving him shocked and embarrassed, and then knocks Lex Luthor on his butt with a nice stiff punch, hurting his ego and his face. Number 9. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. As with almost all comics that take heroes from 2 different universes and throw them together, those heroes have to fight at least a little bit before they can join forces. It's just tradition at this point. So, of course, in 2016, when we see Batman team up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a little scuffle has to take place. Oh, also, if you thought this kind of team up would be silly, yeah, maybe. But it's totally awesome. In their scuffle in the 2nd issue of the comic, Batman basically makes them look like amateurs. They end up hitting each other, being stunned by the Batmobile, having their weapons taken and used against them. Michelangelo starts to get some kind of conversation going before Splinter shows up and splinters the fight. It is super cool, and so is this comic. Give it a read. Cowabunga, dude. Hey there, nerds. Did you know that every time you hit that like and subscribe button, my appreciation of you grows by 4? 4 what? I don't know. I just work here. Anyways, keep whacking those buttons for more spicy content. Number 8, Nightwing. You know, I think Batman needs to kind of ease up on just punching people instead of talking. Sure, it gets stuff done, but then you end up crying at the Oscars while accepting your Best Actor award, so... When Batman first comes into contact with the Court of Owls, the members have special seals hidden in their mouths. The first Robin, now going by Nightwing, could possibly be one of them, as his great-grandfather is. So, how does Batman figure out if his old partner, longtime friend, and member of the Bat family is still loyal? Well, after a bit of lip from Dick Grayson, Batman punches Nightwing right in the mouth and knocks out his tooth to check. He was supposed to be a Talon of the Court of Owls, but he clearly isn't. Remind me never to become a Robin, okay? Number 7, Green Arrow. Green Arrow and Batman have had a few scuffles before, and on the last list, we learned he isn't even considered a threat by Batman, really. Things kind of get taken to another level, though, in Superman Batman issue 14 in 2005, Pretenders to the Throne. Batman and Superman have become villains and rule over the country. Batman brings Superman to Green Arrow as a sick, twisted birthday present so they can pummel him together. Green Lantern actually gets Supes for the kryptonite arrow, which seems to only make Batman more angry, and after a hit with the bow, he completely lays into Green Arrow. That is, until Superman completely disintegrates him with his heat vision. Yikes. You know, maybe this is more sadistic than embarrassing. Number 6, Spawn. In 1994, Spawn was a powerhouse of money making. Now take that character and stick him in a comic with arguably one of the most popular characters ever, Batman, and you've got an instant success. While it may have been over the top ridiculously violent, it's still an awesome comic. As we said before, any team up has to have a little scuffle between the 2 main heroes, and this was one hell of a scuffle. It was brutal and violent. While it may have ended in a draw, during the fight, Batman actually ended up stabbing Spawn in the face with a batarang. The scar from this attack made its way into mainline Spawn comics, while Batman walked away without as much as a scratch. Fight Batman, and he'll give you a scar even your fans have to remember.
Number 5, J'accuse. Blade is one of the newest members of the Avengers main roster, and being new, it seems that he doesn't quite understand how best to deal with other Avengers members, like former and founding Avenger member the Hulk. While Hulk is on a rampage, the Avengers attempt to intercede in Immortal Hulk issue 47, and Blade thinks he has it all figured out. He thinks that Hulk has actually been transformed into a vampire thanks to his new/old powers like being stronger at night and being able to return from the dead. Blade might know vampires, but that doesn't mean he's always right when it comes to his suspicions. Hulk's response to Blade's accusation? To ask him if he can turn into a bat, being that Blade is also part vampire. Blade responds with no, and Hulk tells him It's a good time to learn, as he tosses him up high and away. He's like, hey, can you do that? You can't? Great. Bye. Number 4, hot tubbing. Well, some people might focus on when Hulk beat Thor in Thor Ragnarok in the MCU when it comes to embarrassing moments. I think there is one that tops that. After the fight, Thor is taken to Hulk's private quarters, where his wounds are tended to. When he awakes with a start, he notices Hulk is also there in what appears to be a hot tub? Hulk hot tub. Thor asks Hulk about how he ended up here, and when he finds out that he crash landed on Sakaar via a Quinjet, asks him where the Quinjet is. Hulk responds by getting up out of the tub and crossing the room to where the window is to show Thor the current location of the Quinjet now. This is when Thor learns that Hulk was, naked in that hot tub, which prompts him to seemingly avert his eyes and remark on how that image is now permanently burned into his mind. Yeah, he looks pretty uncomfortable and pretty embarrassed. Oh boy. Number 3, love frenzy. There was that one time Bruce Banner as the Hulk completely lost it, going into a frenzy that caused him to try and both chase down and beat up She-Hulk. And not only that either. It turns out this whole attempt to do so was actually kind of part of a mating ritual thing. It seems that Hulk forgot that She-Hulk was his cousin, because he was in a frenzied Hulk form. Luckily, Hulk didn't get his way here and was eventually set right again. Although in the Old Man Logan universe, the two do apparently end up together, and we don't really know if Jen was here for that or not. Either way, the whole ordeal is pretty embarrassing for Jen, but also likely embarrassing for Bruce as well, if he was told about it afterwards. It's just embarrassing all around, and also pretty, squicky. Ugh. Number 2, ripped in two. Wow, I like how I made number 2 ripped in two. I didn't do that on purpose, but that's good. When Ultimate Wolverine and Ultimate Hulk fought one another in the Ultimate Universe, Hulk pretty much put Wolverine to shame. In this alternate universe of Earth 1610, Wolverine was hired by Nick Fury to track down the Hulk. Wolverine tracked him down alright, but wasn't so good at dealing with him once he did. At one point, Hulk tears Wolverine straight down the middle and tosses his legs so far away that Logan has a challenging time recovering them. And of course I mean right down the middle, not down the middle this way, down across the middle, I guess I should say. In this reality, Wolverine can't just grow new legs, by the way. In order to recover, he needs to find and basically reattach his legs so that his healing powers, or his survival powers more can basically take effect and kick in and heal him. So yeah, he had to crawl all the way over to find his legs in the snow. Great. Also, mountains. There were mountains there. Number 1, why are you hitting yourself? Well, Thor and Hulk fought in Ragnarok, where Hulk only really won against Thor thanks to the help of Grandmaster, tasing Thor until he passed out, just as he was figuring out how to harness the power of lightning without his hammer too. In the comics, these two have fought actually multiple times. One such occasion involved a showdown where Hulk made fun of Thor for having long hair, mistaking him for a hairy lady and telling him that he should get a haircut. Thor, of course, did not take too kindly to these remarks about his long golden locks, which he quite loves, and fought back against Hulk with his hammer Mjolnir. However, Thor ended up surprised when Hulk refused to surrender, claiming he was the strongest there will ever be, before grabbing Thor's hammer arm and then making Thor basically hit himself with Mjolnir. Ouch. Hey Thor, why are you hitting yourself? Number 10, outsmarted. One of the most famous fights between the Hulk and the Thing also happens to be one of the first. This one goes down in Fantastic Four issue number 12, where the Fantastic Four are led to believe that the Hulk is the one behind a bunch of destruction, an attempt to get together to try and stop him. However, this does not end up working out very well. That's because the Hulk is not only the strongest there is, but he also manages to outsmart them almost completely. Hulk realizes that the FF have the advantage, since together they are very powerful, but if he can take them on one by one, then he stands a better chance at defeating them. That's right, it wasn't even his brute strength, but his strategy that allowed him to defeat the Fantastic Four this time around. Well, almost. The Thing seemingly defeats the Hulk with his piledriver punch, but in reality, his punch misses, and it was actually an energy ray that hit the Hulk and knocked him out. Fortunately though, this reveals to the FF that the Hulk was not behind all the destruction, and yeah, they can at least now go after the people that are actually responsible. Number 9. Illuminate the truth. In the secondary short comic that is included in the World War Hulk prologue Worldbreaker, titled Round Trip, we get to see an alternate Hulk embarrass a group he refers to as the Illuminators, obviously the more cartoonish version of the Illuminati. This group ends up sending Hulk to space and another planet in a spaceship, ultimately because he stole Namor's sandwich. How does Hulk embarrass them? In a similar fashion to his plan in the reality of Earth 616, he ends up heading homeward after the group exiles him. Here he doesn't necessarily seem to have the same trauma behind him as he does on 616, fueling his rage even more, but the Illuminators are still completely in a tizzy over the fact that the Hulk ship seems to be on a return course after they sent him away. Except Namor. Namor feels safe knowing that he lives deep in the ocean and that if the surface world gets all smashed up, he and his kingdom will probably still be good. And friends, before we move on to the next spot on this list, if you love our channel and you love our content, be sure to head on over to Facebook to show us that love and support by giving us a follow and a like. I think that's one of the things you do on Facebook. You like stuff. Hey. Number 8. To hear you scream. Speaking of World War Hulk, one of the most embarrassing fights comes from the very beginning of that event, in World War Hulk issue number 1, when Hulk faces off against Black Bolt. Black Bolt and his queen, Medusa, you see, have some ego, which ends up quickly turning into hubris for them. Black Bolt had fought the Hulk before and won, so it was for this reason that they barely even gave Hulk the time of day when he shows up. When Hulk rushes them both, angry for what has happened to his people and the planet that he freed and made his own, Black Bolt only responds with a whisper, saying, "Enough," and with the force of his words pushing Hulk far back. But Hulk ends up coming out on top as he immediately recovers and leaps back at Black Bolt. He didn't come to Attilan for a whisper, he came to hear Black Bolt scream, and it definitely seems like he makes him scream. It does not look like he's in great shape after that conversation. Number 7. Size isn't everything. It really isn't in terms of battle, as is proven in the Ultimates issue number 5. You see, in the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610, Hulk isn't exactly a hero. Here the Avengers are known as the Ultimates, although there is also an Avengers team in this reality, but trust me, they aren't quite the heroic equivalent to the 616 team that we know. But the Ultimates pretty much are that. As Hulk goes on a rampage downtown, the Ultimates must band together in an effort to defeat him. And to be clear, in this reality, Hulk isn't on the Ultimates. The first one up to bat to try to tackle this big beast is Giant Man, aka Hank Pym. He attempts to defeat the Hulk as, well, a giant man. But just because Hulk is smaller than Hank doesn't mean he can't still pack a punch. While Giant Man attempts to hold Hulk beneath his hands and ask him to calm down, also calling him puny, Hulk responds by jumping onto Giant Man's face and threatening to rip his head off and use it like a toilet bowl, before punching his lights out. Proving that, yeah, even if you think, well, I'm a lot bigger than the Hulk, it doesn't mean that the Hulk can't mess you up. Number 6. Bustin' makes me feel not so good. In the case of Tony Stark, that is. While the Hulkbuster became a famous suit of armor in the Avengers film franchise, we also know it from the comics. During the events of World War Hulk, Tony attempted to use this armor to defeat the Hulk when he returned to Earth and threatened to destroy it if he wasn't given the heroes responsible for sending him into space. One of which who was responsible was Tony, who actually initially created the Illuminati group that sent the Hulk away. Tony had also created nanotech, which would in theory be capable of suppressing the Hulk's powers, actually even forcibly using it on Jennifer Walters previously, which she actually sued him for in return. However, the Hulkbuster, the nanosuppressant, even the big bombs that they attempted to use all did nothing. Hulk's pain was so intense, his anger so great, that he became powerful enough to survive all of this and remain in his Hulk form. So apparently it doesn't matter how smart you are, Tony, or how prepared. In the end, if Hulk wants to smash, he's going to continue to smash. Can't Hulk bust your way out of that one.
Number 5. Facial hair bros. Right smack dab in the middle of the video, sort of, not really, I want to do something completely different. Something finally not combat related. Yet a victory for Tony and an embarrassment for none other than Stephen Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme. In Invincible Iron Man number 3, Iron Man goes to Doctor Strange for help with a little problem he is having. As he's about to leave the Sanctum Sanctorum, he goes, "Thanks, Doctor," and stays there like this for 8 comic book panels, until Steven gives him a very reluctant high five as Tony yells, "Awesome, facial hair bros!" And Steven says, "I hate you." I'm sorry, I had to include this. Number 4, Namor. Iron Man and Namor the Submariner have always had a pretty tense relationship, both having massive egos. They have gone at it with their words and their fisticuffs multiple different times. From what I can tell, the powerful Submariner usually has the win more than often. But Iron Man isn't a pushover. He's gotten some good shots, and in Iron Man number 25 in 1970, we have an example of him winning, in a somewhat hilarious way too. Basically, unbeknownst to Tony, his company had been polluting the ocean with a pipeline. Now yes, that is very bad. But if you just go and talk to Tony, I'm sure he'd fix the issue. No, that is not the Submariner's way. No, instead, he attacks, destroying the pipeline and then attacking the buildings it's connected to. To subdue Namor, Tony uses the heating coils of his suit to evaporate all the water in Namor's body, basically rendering him powerless. And then he ties him up to an under construction tower using metal beams. It's kind of hilarious looking, and I feel like Namor could easily slip out of that, like the power of gravity, but it's certainly embarrassing. Number 3, Spider-Man. Spider-Man and Iron Man here have a bit of an interesting relationship. In the MCU, it's very father-son, but in the comics, and specifically in the Civil War event, while Tony takes Peter under his wing and even gives him some great upgrades, actually manipulates the Spider-Lad quite a little bit. Spider-Man switches to Captain America's side, and in Iron Man Volume 4, number 14, Spider-Man, alongside a few other heroes, launch a surprise attack on Tony. While Spider-Man has beaten Tony before, specifically when Tony threatened Mary Jane and Aunt May, the use of the spider armor gave Tony a ton of information about Parker's spider sense. Not just being able to replicate it for himself, but he got the information to use Peter's against him, which he does while making a nice little baseball themed strike 1, 2, and 3, fitting as they are fighting at Yankee Stadium. Number 2, Daredevil. You know what? I really liked Superior Iron Man. The story was cool, and Tony was, well, he was kind of an almost villain, honestly. Specifically, there were 2 times with Daredevil that showcased this really well. After Tony got the whole population of San Francisco addicted to a social media platform, and then began charging them subscription fees for it, trust me, it's a lot more sinister than I'm making it sound, Daredevil goes to Tony's base on Alcatraz Island to confront him, and shut him down. Obviously, that wasn't going to go the way he wanted it to. But even I didn't expect Tony to just pick him up by the throat, tell him he's always welcome but to leave the attitude at home, and then straight up just chuck the blind superhero without fear into the freezing waters of the San Francisco Bay. Cold. Literally. Number 1, Captain America. We love Civil War. Not the actual Civil War, the Marvel one. So many great examples of superheroes fighting other superheroes. But the main star of the show in this conflict is Iron Man versus Captain America. And while the climactic fight ultimately ended in a Captain America favored draw, I'd say the first major fight was definitely more of a win for Tony. In issue 3 and 4 of the main Civil War comic, a battle takes place between the forces of both Cap and Stark. While Steve is fighting Spider-Man, Iron Man comes swooping in, attacking with an armor that's analyzed every fight Cap has ever had. And he just starts going to town on the guy, feeding him the left, right, until Cap is absolutely battered. Cap still doesn't go down, so Tony uses a high frequency that shuts down the human brain. He's about to end the fight when Hercules jumps in, attacking him with an oil tanker truck. Number 10, Hulk. We all know of the famous Hulkbuster suit. But would it just blow your minds if I told you that Iron Man has defeated the Hulk without it? Yes, that's right. In Iron Man issue 132, our Golden Avenger faced off mano a mano against the strongest Green Avenger. And when I tell you this was one hell of a fight, I ain't lying. After an attempt at helping Bruce Banner results in the Hulk persona emerging, resulting in Tony donning the suit and protecting his employees, the fight goes from Stark Industries to underwater to an Air Force base where the two basically play baseball with a luggage carrier and Tony's favorite jet. The resulting explosion stunned the Hulk, and in that moment, Tony mustered every bit of solar and reserve energy he could, overriding the safety protocols of his suit to hit the stunned Hulk with a singular massive punch that knocked out Hulk and killed that suit of armor. Number 9. Sentry / the Void. This is one of those do whatever the hell I can to defeat you kind of moments. In the Marvel Siege storyline, Bob Reynolds, the Sentry, one of Marvel's Superman characters, has joined with Norman Osborn and his Dark Avengers, being somewhat taken over by the Void. In the end of the story, the Sentry, using the power of the Void, was directed by Osborn to take out the floating city of Asgard, which he did, sending it crashing to the ground. And then he de-lifed Loki. The other Avengers and Thor have not been able to defeat Sentry / Void yet, so as one last ditch attempt, Iron Man uses a whole hammer helicarrier as a missile and crashes the whole thing down on top of him. This weakens the Void enough that Thor can end him with a blow from Mjolnir, but damn, Tony really just had enough of this guy. Number 8. Hawkeye. Surprise! Hawkeye does not stand a chance against Iron Man, but he did actually put up a pretty good fight the first 2 times they fought. Both times were in Tales of Suspense in issue 57 and 60. Hawkeye's first appearances before he was actually a hero, when he was instead a criminal. Natasha Romanoff, who is also a criminal at the time, tricks Clint into helping her steal Tony's powerful tech. It doesn't go too well for them though. At the end of the first fight in issue 57, Tony gets Clint clinging onto a pole, which he then bends and flicks like one of those little door stopper things, thwanging little Robin Hood here into the water and then saving the unconscious Clint from drowning. Doth mother know you have not liked or subscribed? Well, that's okay if you don't want to, but it would be appreciated. Okay, let's move on. Number 7. Captain Marvel and Gamora. Combo! Wham bam! Actually, more like pew pew. Look, love it or hate it, the second Marvel Civil War event happened. I could get into what the conflict itself was actually about, but that doesn't really have anything to do with this point. The main thing you need to know is that just like the first Civil War, the superhuman community is split, with Iron Man leading one side and Carol Danvers leading the other. At the time of this story, Iron Man was sporting his Model Prime armor, an armor that could basically shapeshift and change color for whatever it was he needed to do at the time, making the need for multiple armors a little redundant. During a conflict with Captain Marvel and her group, Tony was under attack from some pretty powerful heroes, specifically Captain Marvel and Gamora jumped in to do battle before they were dispatched from a single blast from Iron Man. Just one shot is all he needed. Damn. Number 6. Emma Frost. Did you know the Avengers fought the X-Men? Yes, it's true. And a comic titled, get this, Avengers vs. X-Men. It's a good title. Seriously though, the conflict blossomed when the Phoenix Force is headed straight to Earth with mutant Hope Summers as its supposed host. The Avengers believe this is bad juju for the population of Earth, and the X-Men think this is gonna be what they need for the mutant population to be reborn. A battle happens between the two teams at the mutant island of Utopia. Partway through, Emma Frost comes to make a move, saying telepathically to Cyclops she can shut down the Avengers telepathically, and she is going to end this. Then Iron Man chimes in, I bet you thought you were just about to end this, as he fires microscopic telepathic tasers at her and hopes she will let him make it up to her over dinner. She punches him in the stomach and he blasts back with his repulsors, but this genuinely made me snicker.
Number 5 replaces Krypto with a different superdog in Superboy number 109. Due to his many years in comics and his recent appearance in DC League of Super Pets, you are likely passingly familiar with Krypto the Superdog, but are you familiar with his rival, Swifty the Greyhound? Our story begins when Superboy is fiddling with his Phantom Zone projector while the imprisoned Kryptonian criminals led by General Zod are trying to affect the Boy of Steel by using mental suggestion to convince him to destroy himself. Because of his powers, Superboy isn't affected, so the Phantoms try again with Krypto to no avail. They instead brainwash a dog named Swifty and control him into making a potion that gives him superpowers. When Swifty shows up with powers, Superboy decides to put the two dogs through a series of tests to determine who is the better super pet and will get to go with him on an important space mission. The Phantom Kryptonians help Swifty so that he wins the competition. At this point, Superboy takes away Krypto's cape and gives it to the rival dog. To add insult to injury, he makes Krypto put on a damaged, moth-eaten cape and then ditches his dog to go to space with Swifty. Even Krypto thinks this is a bit much, as on the teaser page for the story, we see him thinking to himself between sobs, "Bad enough my master prefers that super mutt to me, but did Superboy have to give Swifty Swifty my snazzy, indestructible cape, and make me wear this crummy, moth-eaten spare cape of his. Swifty eventually betrays the Boy of Steel, who is saved by a timely intervention by Krypto, but that doesn't make his treatment of his dog any less weird and kinda petty. Number 4. One-upping Batman's gifts in World's Finest number 85. When the ruler of Balkania, Princess Verena, comes to America, her only desire is to see the famous heroes Superman and Batman. And if Robin is also there, that's fine. When the two heroes meet the princess, both are immediately smitten and begin competing for the beautiful princess's affection. When Batman goes out and gets her a bouquet of orchids, Superman flies to South America and gets a giant orchid for the princess. Batman gives her a large diamond ring that he bought, and Superman responds by getting a giant piece of coal and crushing it into a giant, supersized diamond and offering it to the princess. Batman takes Verena on a tour of the city in the Batmobile, letting a very unimpressed Robin drive while he puts the Bat moves on the princess. The mood is ruined when they look at a nearby cliff that Superman has defaced by carving a giant heart with the words S loves V. Batman goes to the train station with the princess so she can move on from Metropolis to Gotham, but before he can get on the train, Superman picks up the train and flies it to Gotham, leaving Batman to frantically chase after them in the Batplane. When they discover that the princess is actually in love with her bodyguard, Captain Stefan, the heroes claim that they were just pretending to be rivals in order to better protect her, but come on. Even if that is the case, that doesn't mean Superman had to go so all out on making Batman look like a fool in front of the princess and the entire world. Number 3. Making Robin his court jester in World's Finest number 165. When the evil King Wolf escapes from prison, he claims to his men that he is dying. He devises a competition for his henchmen to determine who the new king of crime will be. They must complete 3 robberies, and whoever pulls off the robbery best will be the new king. Batman and Superman suspect that the king is lying about his condition and decide to help the criminals with their robberies in hopes that the king will reveal his true plan. Batman and Robin take out one of the henchmen, and Batman disguises himself as the goon in order to infiltrate the gang. One of the other criminals disguises himself as Superman in order to pretend to stop a robbery and take the loot as evidence. In order to make sure he wins the competition, Batman knows he has to pull off a spectacular crime, and well in disguise as the goon, disguises himself as Batman and holds himself hostage, threatening to have himself killed if the submarine he's robbing doesn't hand over the ship's supercomputer. Robin pretends to not know what's going on, and Batman pretends to capture him and takes him back to the king's hideout. Okay, if you're confused, don't worry, it gets worse. Batman ties with the criminal who is disguised as Superman, who unbeknownst to Batman actually is Superman, and both are crowned the new kings of crime. When asked what his first royal decree is, Superman immediately says he wants to see Robin killed. Like, honestly, it comes to mind a little too fast. Batman is able to claim that since he captured Robin, he should get to decide his fate, and suggests that they make him the new court jester. Superman agrees, and Robin is forced to dress as a jester and perform for the court of criminals, while Batman and Superman tool around. Now, Dick Grayson was a circus performer before becoming a hero, but it's still weird that Superman and Batman made him dress up and give them a full show before making any effort to figure out the criminal's plan. Number 2 frames Batman for witchcraft in World's Finest number 186 and 187. When Batman and Superman go back in time to colonial times, they come across a woman who had been accused of witchcraft and is about to be dunked in the town pond. Superman moves too fast to be seen and goes into the water and uses his steel-like teeth to gnaw through the dunking mechanism. Batman then dives into the water and rescues the woman. She is smitten with Batman and gives him a kiss. Superman thinks to himself, "Isn't that just like a woman? I did the work and Batman's collecting the goodies." In retaliation, the Man of Steel disguises himself as Batman and starts flying around the town on a broomstick. He then uses his super speed to make it look like Batman has turned coal to diamonds, and uses his super ventriloquism to make it look like a black cat is accusing Batman of being an agent of Satan. As an impartial out-of-towner, Superman is chosen to prosecute a very confused Batman. He has Batman put in the stocks and sentences him to be burnt at the stake. When Batman is tied to the stake, Superman uses his heat vision to start the fire, claiming that it is further proof of Batman's demonic powers. Batman is eventually able to make the townsfolk think that Superman is the witch and is set free. Superman tells Batman that he saw that he had been possessed by a demon and was putting Batman in danger to scare the demon out of his body. But as the reader, we can read Superman's thought bubbles during the frame job, and he really does think about how jealous he is that the woman has chosen Batman over him, and is laughing and giggling to himself as Batman begs him to stop the townsfolk from carrying him away in chains. So even if he had a good reason to put Batman in danger, he's getting way too much joy out of it. Number 1 forces Jimmy Olsen to marry a gorilla in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen number 98. For anyone claiming Jimmy Olsen doesn't count as a hero, I would remind you that Jimmy has saved Superman's life several times and has developed superpowers even more times, so I'm counting him. In Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen number 98, Jimmy and Clark are on assignment in the African jungle where a blockbuster movie is being filmed. The film crew is using the local natives as extras, and in exchange are showing the natives a different jungle movie every night. The natives worship a sacred ape named Bruna, who comes into the camp and is enamored with the showing of King Kong. When Jimmy dresses up in a Tarzan costume and begins swinging from vines in an attempt to convince the director to give him a role in the movie, he gets trapped by an underwater pool of quicksand. He is rescued by Bruna, the sacred ape, who is immediately smitten with the young cub reporter. The ape tries to woo Jimmy, even bringing him a bouquet of bananas, but Jimmy runs away. The sacred ape goes on a rampage after losing her chosen mate, and Superman decides that the best thing for everyone would be if Jimmy just goes along with it until he can figure out a plan. He drops Jimmy off with the ape and brings them a fruit basket as an engagement gift. Jimmy's girlfriend, Lucy Lane, shows up and makes the ape a bridal veil. Just when things can't seem to get any worse for Jimmy, Superman shows up dressed as a witch doctor to perform the ceremony while the movie crew films the whole thing. Bruna eventually tires of Jimmy and throws him off a cliff, and he is rescued by the Man of Steel, but I think we can all agree that Superman let this one go on a little too far before he intervened. Nearly kills Aquaman in a weird competition in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen number 115. When Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen is eaten by the same whale that ate Jonah in the Bible, he develops the same superpowers as Aquaman. Jimmy uses these newfound powers to save the day when a bunch of sunken ships surface and almost crash into an aircraft carrier. Superman and Aquaman show up, and Supes asks Aquaman why he didn't handle the incident and implies that he's been slipping ever since his wife Mira disappeared. An incensed Aquaman tells Superman that he is far more powerful than Jimmy and can prove it in any test the Man of Steel comes up with. Superman takes both of them to a desert and explains that since their powers only allow them to be out of the water for an hour, and it has been 55 minutes since they were in the sea, they will soon begin to die. Whoever lasts the longest will be King of Atlantis. He leaves them to struggle and returns to taunt them with a pitcher of seawater. When Aquaman loses, Jimmy has him taken back to Atlantis. Once he's gone, Superman reveals that he is actually Proteus, the old man of the sea in disguise. So technically, this wasn't Superman, but Aquaman doesn't learn this until much later in the comics, so for a chunk of time, he thinks that Superman did all that to him. It's not actually Superman, so I put it in the number 10 slot, but honestly, this behavior wouldn't be that unusual for the Silver Age Man of Steel. Number 9 makes a smut film with Mr. Miracle's wife in Action Comics number 593. In a really bizarre story by John Byrne, Mr. Miracle comes home to Darkseid sitting in his living room. Darkseid informs him that his wife, Big Barda, has been captured and hands him a VHS tape. Mr. Miracle awkwardly crawls around on the floor to put the tape in his VCR and discovers that his wife has been hypnotized and is starring in adult films. He takes off to find his wife. The villain, Sleaze, shows up at the studio to talk to the director and reveals that he also has Superman under his control and suggests that the director use Superman and Big Barda in a film together. Mr. Miracle arrives just in time to see his wife and Superman making out in a shabby bedroom set, and he interrupts the filming. The three heroes defeat the villains, but all three of the heroes are pretty embarrassed by the situation, and Superman claims that he doesn't remember what happened while under Sleaze's control, but I think he might just be lying to get out of an awkward situation. Anyways, that's the last of these entries on the list where it isn't actually Superman or he isn't in control of his actions, so let's get into the meat of the list. Number 8, his first fight with Batman in Justice League Volume 2, Issue 2. In the story of how the Justice League came together in 2011's New 52 reboot, the heroes are all loners who don't trust each other. When Batman and Green Lantern come across a parademon and a mother box, they are unable to identify it, but realize it is of alien origin. They decide that their best bet is to go to Metropolis and talk to the only other alien they know about, Superman. Due to a misunderstanding, Superman believes that the other two heroes are somehow involved with the parademons and attacks them. Batman tries to hold his own by throwing tear gas, sonic grenades, and tasers at the Man of Steel with no effect. Superman chides the Caped Crusader, telling him, "Your belt's empty, Batman," before grabbing him by the throat and slamming him into a wall. Considering how well Batman managed to do against Superman in subsequent fights, he clearly felt this loss, and I'd argue has never felt so powerless. Number 7, his fight with Green Lantern in Justice League Volume 2, Issue 2. Continuing on from the previous entry, let's talk about how the same fight went for Green Lantern. He spent most of the flight to Metropolis bragging to Batman that he would have no problem beating the Man of Steel. When they found Superman, Hal told Batman to stay back while he handled Superman. Superman then came at him faster than a speeding bullet and more powerfully than a locomotive. While Batman was being mildly irritating at best to Superman, Green Lantern came in for round 2, tying Superman up with constructs of giant chains. Superman smirked and said, "Chains? Really? You're funny, Green Lantern," before easily shattering the construct and renewing his attack. Pretty much all of Hal's confidence shattered at this point, and he protected Batman and himself in a bubble as Superman bounced them around the city. Superman was being pretty intense about the whole situation, but thankfully a timely intervention by the Flash allowed them to recover and explain themselves to the Man of Steel. Number 6, exiles Supergirl to another planet in Action Comics number 258. When Superman's cousin, Kara Zor-El, came to Earth and revealed that he wasn't the only surviving member of his family, Superman described it as the happiest moment of his life. He then dropped her off at the orphanage and told her that she had to keep her existence a secret. She took all of this in stride and followed Superman's orders until one day she saw Krypto the superdog flying around. She introduced herself to Krypto and the two had a fun time playing together. Then Superman showed up and started scolding her for revealing her existence. Supergirl very reasonably points out that Krypto is a dog and can't talk, let alone reveal her to the world. Superman responds by banishing her to live on an asteroid for a year in complete isolation. Supergirl stays there for a week before Krypto shows up with a note from Superman telling her that there is a storm of kryptonite dust coming to the asteroid and that she must return to the orphanage in her secret identity of Linda Lee for one day before going back to space for the rest of her exile. Linda shows up at the orphanage but finds herself in a spot of trouble when she comes across a search party that has been looking for the missing orphan. She covers herself in mud and claims to have been stranded in Dismal Swamp for the past week. She dodges reporters' questions and Superman reveals that all the shaming and sending her off into exile was an elaborate test to see if she was clever enough to figure out how to maintain a secret identity. Superman congratulates Supergirl for passing the test and she excitedly asks if this means that she no longer has to keep her existence a secret, and Superman clarifies that he never said that and tells her to continue living in secret until he damn well says so.
Number 5, he was a more successful Iron Man. Infamous Iron Man will forever be one of my favorite Doctor Doom related stories, and it's honestly because of that awesome armor, but also because Doom almost does a better job fighting crime than Tony Stark himself. Taking up the mantle of the then comaed Tony Stark, Victor Von Doom declares himself a hero and went about trying to fix the world, but not just any hero, he specifically takes on the role of Iron Man. One of the ways Doom went about saving the world was using his knowledge of the criminal underworld from when he was a criminal to arrest a large gathering of villains in one big move. What's kind of hilarious is that these villains were all gathered to figure out what they were going to actually do now that Doom has switched sides. During that, Doom busts in through the roof and took down heavy hitters such as the Wizard, the Wrecking Crew, the Hood, and Jigsaw all in one go. Number 4, Doom War. If you've never read Doom War, it's probably one of Dr. Doom's more ruthless moments. Essentially, after funding a coup that banished T'Challa from Wakanda, Doom set his sights on Wakanda's treasure, the Vibranium Mound. However, T'Challa had hidden the Vibranium behind a series of increasingly complex locks. The last of these locks was a bit more spiritual, as in order to get through it, you needed to be deemed worthy by the Panther God herself. Not many of us thought Doom could do that, but it's Dr. Doom. He immediately strips down to his nothings and offers himself up for judgment. Now the Panther Goddess realizes and notes that not only does Doom want to create a peaceful world for all mankind, but that out of a million different futures, his is the one that creates a world without evil. You can imagine that T'Challa was quite taken aback by that one. Number 3, save the world where others failed. Again, I guess. In Marvel 2-in-1, The Thing and Human Torch, an alternate universe story, The Thing was killed trying to fight Galactus with his fists. Honestly, someone should have told him that that was a bad idea. Either way, it happened, and Reed Richards went mad with grief and tried to take down Galactus himself, which actually didn't work out and left the whole world defenseless. And of course, it's Dr. Doom who comes to the rescue, with both a plan and alien technology. Doom ends up swapping minds with Galactus, leaving the Devourer trapped in Doom's body while Doom's mind now controls the cosmic force of nature. Despite his newfound hunger, Doom swore to the people of Earth that they would be spared, and he didn't lie. Doom didn't eat the Earth. Instead, he ate literally everything else in the whole entire universe. But he defeated Galactus and Reed Richards did not, and that probably made Doom happier than any amount of planet consuming. Number 2, the Sentry. I could very easily do a speed round of Dr. Doom overpowering heroes and villains alike. He's removed the powers of the Fantastic Four in Fantastic Four number 70. His willpower is strong enough to overcome the persuasion powers of Purple Man and Emperor Doom. He has put down the Hulk, taken hits from Thor, and sensed the telepathic powers of Emma Frost. But I think what kind of makes me drop my jaw more than anything else is when he has gone up against the Sentry. The Sentry is probably the most powerful of Marvel's Superman-like characters. He's kind of basically a god. But Doom is Doom, and Doom cares not for gods. Not only has he tanked hits from the Sentry, which is absolutely insane, but in the Mighty Avengers number 10, Doom uses magic to very, very badly hurt a mentally distressed Sentry simply for placing his hands on the one and only Doom. And in at number 1 is Latveria. Okay, so this point isn't really a single instance, it's more like a constant. One of the biggest things about Doom that I think puts heroes to shame on the daily is the fact that he has made his country one of the greatest in the world, and despite being a bit of a dictator, his people love him for it. After becoming Doom, he returned to Latveria and took the country from the dictator that had ruined his life from birth, and he made the country one of the greatest nations on Earth. Some of the lowest crime rates, the highest literacy, and the highest employment rates, and it's a world power. He had complete control always, but unlike dictators who are loved at first and then hated, Doom was always loved. Heroes like Ben Grimm, for example, found this out on their own in issue number 10 of Infamous Iron Man when Ben was talking to a Latvian citizen. He said, "At least Doom is gone," and then the woman was like, no, I'd give anything to have him back, he always loved us. Starting at number 10, stealing the powers of the Silver Surfer. Fantastic Four from 1961, number 57, sees Dr. Doom take the power cosmic from the Herald of Galactus himself. The Silver Surfer ends up in Latveria and receives an invitation from Dr. Doom himself. The Surfer goes and Doom gives him a tour of his laboratory, acting very uncharacteristically humble and friendly. He then distracts the Surfer with a temporal photo of the universe, because of course he does, and then uses inductors to steal his cosmic powers. Doom then steals the Surfer's surfboard and flies to New York to attack the Fantastic Four with his newfound power. Number 9, Avengers Emperor Doom. In Avengers Emperor Doom, Victor uses a psychoprism to imprison the villain Purple Man and use his willpower manipulating abilities to force nearly everyone on Earth to obey Dr. Doom. He obviously succeeded, with the only Avenger not affected by Purple Man's powers being Wonder Man, who is horrified to find Doom in control of the entire world. Only, Doom's world isn't exactly a bad place. Peace has been achieved, crime is practically non-existent, even nuclear weapons have been destroyed, and apartheid had been ended. On the other hand though, the people of the world were not actually free to do what they wished with their own willpower. Since Doom is ultimately the villain though, Wonder Man begins freeing the Avengers, who collectively have the strongest willpower, so they can team up to overthrow Doom, setting the world back to its former order. But I think a lot of readers were kind of like, hey, wait a minute, maybe Doom's world ain't so bad, bro. If you fans of Doom are enjoying this video, and you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to us here at Top 10 Nerd to see more videos like this one. Alright, moving on. Number 8. Saved the multiverse. In 2015's Secret Wars, the Beyonders, incredibly powerful alien entities from another dimension, planned to destroy all of creation by using the Molecule Man, who was actually created by the Beyonders, to be detonated and act as a universe-destroying force. Luckily for all of reality, Dr. Doom exists. The Molecule Man from Earth 616, along with Dr. Doom and Doctor Strange, gathered a bunch of Molecule Men from various realities, combined them into a super weapon, and launched this weapon against the Beyonders with a kiss and a hug. It completely destroyed the Beyonders, but it also destroyed everything else. Someone needed to take the energy from the Beyonders and recreate all of existence, and who is more worthy than Victor Von Doom? Doom recreated reality in the form of Battleworld. Now, of course, in this new reality, Doom was the Emperor, the Thing was turned into a giant wall, and Johnny Storm was the sun, but the villain Dr. Doom saved the Marvel multiverse. How many heroes can say that? Number 7. Selling Doctor Strange to Mephisto. In the beginning of his comic book life, Doom wanted nothing more than to save his mother from the hold of Mephisto. Once a year, every year, Doom would challenge Mephisto for the fate of his mother's soul, but he almost always lost. Until 1989, when he teamed up with Doctor Strange in Triumph and Torment. Shortly after their arrival in Hell, the Doctors began to realize that they don't really stand a chance at winning at all. When the two become separated, Mephisto makes Doom an offer. Doctor Strange's soul in exchange for his mother's. A deal that Doom actually accepts. Doom captured Strange and made the deal, but after Doom's mom became so offended that her son would sell the Sorcerer Supreme just to save her soul, she refused to be freed, and that's when Dr. Doom's real plan could actually kick in. Thanks to his mother's pure act and a gadget that Doom slipped into Strange's cloak, the Sorcerer Supreme was able to use the light of this pure act to wound Mephisto and free himself and Victor's mother, and the three of them escaped. Doom pulled an old Uno reverse by not letting the Sorcerer Supreme in on his plan. Number 6. Doombots. In the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, in an episode fittingly titled Doomed, the heroes decide to prove themselves by catching S.H.I.E.L.D.'s most wanted villain, Dr. Doom. The kids actually seem to do it though, successfully capturing Doom and returning him to the S.H.I.E.L.D. Helicarrier. But it's never that simple with Dr. Doom. After he arrives, Doom reveals that he was actually the Mark VI Hoberman, which is a version of the Doombot with a bunch of smaller Doombots inside, each smaller than the last one, like one of those Russian nesting dolls. The robots work together, very nearly crashing the Helicarrier and everyone inside. One of the littlest Doombots even yells, "Feel the wrath of Doom!" in like a super high-pitched voice. It's honestly quite fantastic.
Number 5. Can't stop killing. It's hard to tell who would be more embarrassed in this scenario, Wonder Woman or all of her friends who try to reach out to her and really epically fail. This all goes down in a dark multiverse tale, a darker version of War of the Gods. Here, Wonder Woman ends up losing her mother and in her darkness finds herself possessed and overtaken by Hecate, who uses Wonder Woman as her host to reach out and conquer Earth. Wonder Woman's friends try to stop Diana and reach her, but she's trapped deep within a pit of despair after having not properly dealt with her emotions, basically. Struggling to find her way back to love and hope, the only solution is for many magic users of DC to band together, sacrificing themselves in order to defeat Hecate, but still unable to bring back Diana. Whew. Zatanna, as a result, keeps Hecate in Diana's body locked away, hoping to one day find a cure for the possession so she can bring back her friend once more. Number 4. Rejected. But for real this time. Real rejection. So this isn't rejection of the romantic sort, but it is the rejection of a kind of, like a team-up sort, I guess you could say. In Wonder Woman the Hecate, Bruce and Diana end up at odds with one another. As such, the two end up in a fight with one another. Wonder Woman handily ends up defeating Batman in that fight, placing her boot on his head as he lays in a puddle, and urges him to not get back up. Batman decides to surrender, which I think is a good choice. Instead of fighting back, Batman tries a new tactic and begs for Diana's mercy and protection. This shocks Wonder Woman as Batman clings to her boots. He calls on the age-old ritual and rites to seek her power and her aid. Wonder Woman, however, reminds Bruce of his history, saying that in times previous, heroic men have been denied, as she chooses to deny him now. Ouch. Looks like Batman needs to brush up on his reading of the Iliad, apparently. Number 3. Poking eyes and breaking arms. And in Justice Gods Among Us Year 4, there is a brutal showdown between Superman and Wonder Woman that is basically orchestrated by Batman. The two face off in a trial by combat style fight in order to settle a dispute, with Wonder Woman being forced to fight as she was nominated by Batman, even though she and Supes are kinda still technically on the same side here. However, this just means that in the end, Diana is able to use Clark's hesitancy to her advantage. She not only defeats Clark, but she does so brutally. At first it seems as though he'll come out victorious, but the fight ends with Diana clearly on top, attempting to gouge out his eyes before succeeding in breaking his arm. Youch. It's not easy to break a Kryptonian's arm, by the way. That is a lot. Number 2. Defeated by love? That's right, Wonder Woman actually defeated someone with basically just the power of love. Although I suppose I shouldn't say like just the power of love. After all, love is kinda Wonder Woman's biggest ideal, I'd say, and it also is extremely powerful if you know how to use it. Case in point, when Diana went up against a villainous Donna Troy. Donna seemingly had the upper hand in the fight, claiming to be the more powerful of the two, designed to be a more perfect version of Diana when Wonder Woman decided to bust out one of her most effective weapons, the lasso of truth, which unlike Ghost Rider's pen and stare, almost always actually works on the folks that she targets it with. I know there's gonna be Ghost Rider fans coming for me in the comments. They're gonna be like, look, the pen and stare is great, but I'm just saying I can give you so many examples of times it didn't work. I think it's almost equal. It's like a 1-for-1. Compelled to see and realize the truth, Diana reminded Donna of what it really meant to be an Amazon. It's not about power, you see, or strength. It's about being part of a culture, being part of a family, being a sister. That is the most important defining word of Amazonian culture. Sister. And with that one word and realization, Diana handily defeats her sister Donna using nothing but truth and love. Number 1. The truth comes out. One of the most memed Power Girl and Wonder Woman moments comes from the 2007 The Brave and the Bold series in issue number 7. While many people have spun this series of panels with their own reason for why Kara is so shocked at her answer to Wonder Woman's question, changing up just what that answer is, the real dialogue sees Kara handing back Wonder Woman's lasso of truth and while passing it over to her, answering Diana's question of, where she's off to next. Power Girl responds in the comic that she's off to go kill Superman, shocking both herself and Diana, and leaving her super embarrassed while Diana is convinced that something must be wrong with Power Girl. Perhaps she's brainwashed or she's possessed, as the lasso obviously compels those it touches to only tell the truth. So, I mean, she's gotta be telling the truth. Wow, what an embarrassing way to realize that that's going on.